As I said in episode 48, I will be focusing exclusively on anime, and now, with the announcement of a new and proper Godzilla anime series coming out in 2021, it was the perfect opportunity to get started. For the next few weeks, I'm going to take you on another journey, this time in anime format. With that said, let's begin this arc. Hello everyone, it is I, and welcome to the Brumakian podcast, an episodic review series where I can review anything but not everything, covering the background, plot, and details on various tokusatsu films and anime. Now, before we get started, you're probably wondering, wait, did he intentionally skip episode 49? No, I didn't, because that spot belongs to the Godzilla vs. Kong review, whenever that movie comes out anyway. Also, I didn't want to start this anime arc, in 2021. I'm pretty sure you guys wouldn't want that. Now that I've got that out of the way, we are now on the road to the newly announced Godzilla animated series, Godzilla Singular Point. Without further delay, let's begin the first thing on my list, and that is Part 1, Redefiance. Yes, there's multiple parts to this arc, go figure, where I will be reviewing classics that redefined the anime industry, starting with the 1988 animated film, Akira. Now, before we officially get started, I want to give you a little history lesson on anime. Speaking of that word, by definition, an anime is a style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children. But how did it all started? First off, you guys know Disney, right? No. I'm not talking about modern Disney that comprises of nothing but corporate businessmen in suits, but I'm talking about early Disney, back in the early 20th century. Disney, you may argue, pioneered animation. Then after Disney made big money with animated classics, many companies decided to use their own style of animation, ranging from Warner Brothers' original run of the Looney Tunes,
Duck season, Wabbit season, duck season, Wabbit season, duck season, Wabbit season, Wabbit season, duck season, Wabbit season. I say it's duck season, and I say fire.
to MGM's run of the classic Tom and Jerry shorts. Japan, believe it or not, has already had a hand at animation way before Disney, Warner Brothers, or MGM. In fact, the very first Japanese animation to ever be filmed was way back in 1907. Even though it was only 3 seconds long, it was still a form of Japanese-style animation. When the late 1930s into the 1940s came along, Japanese animation was strictly for propaganda films during World War II. In 1945, Japan saw its first animated feature film. 3 years after the war, a company was founded. It was simply called Japanese Animation Studio, JAS. Clever name there, by the way. However, in 1956, they were merged with another company, Toei, and thus Toei Animation was formed, and the company would still be active into the present day. Suddenly, in 1958, a fully colored animated film puts Japan in direct competition with Disney. But it was during the 1960s that anime started to make a mark. Starting in 1961, Otoga Manga Calendar was the first anime to be aired on TV. Then came along other franchises like Astro Boy, Gigantor, Kimba the White Lion, Sally the Witch, the first ever shoujo anime, Cyborg 009, Tiger Mask, and Dororo. I hope I said that one right. And then, in the 1970s, it took another step, boosting the qualities of different art styles. Anime such as Ashita no Jewel, Lupin III, and Space Battleship Yamato, with the rise of interest in tokusatsu, gave birth to a long-running franchise that's still going today, Mobile Suit Gundam. Speaking of Gundam, it was that, along with everything else, that put mecha anime on the map in the 1980s. Along with the original Gundam, in 1985 was Zeta Gundam. Also in 1985 was the year of OVAs. But when the late 1980s rolled around, animation studios started to get more experimental with anime films. Studios such as Toei, Ghibli, Madhouse, Sunrise, and Gainax pushed the envelope on how to redefine animation in film. And then came along a film in 1988 that was a failure in Japan, but when distributed in the West, made the biggest impact and would be called the landmark of Japanese animation, Akira. At first, the creator of the original Akira manga, a Japanese comic book, Katsuhiro Otomo, really didn't want his series to turn into an anime, but later on, he was intrigued on the idea when the offer was given to him. He agreed to turn it into a feature-length film as long as he has full creative control. The terms were agreed upon, and the Akira community was created, with many Japanese entertainment companies such as Kodansha, Manchi Broadcasting System, Bandai, Hakuhodo Laserdisc Corporation, Sumitomo Corporation, and Toho. Yes, that Toho, the latter of whom are the ones who are distributing the film. But there was only one problem. Who would be animating it? Enter Tokyo Movie Shinza Entertainment, or TMS Entertainment for short. Now, the film's budget in 1988 was around 700 million yen, or 5.5 million US dollars, surpassing Hayao Miyazaki's Laputa Castle in the Sky from 2 years previously by Studio Ghibli. The teaser trailer was released in 1987, and now, 1 year later, the movie was finally released. Now, get this. The movie was released in 1988, while the manga actually ended in 1990, just 2 years after the film premiered. Now, Otomo himself has stated that he has filled about 2,000 pages of said manga, but only 738 pages of its various story elements were saved for the final storyboard, meaning that the ending of the movie would be somewhat different from how the manga ended. Regardless, as I said, the movie Akira was released on July 16, 1988, with overwhelming positive reviews and earning around 750 million yen at the box office, plus these subsequent releases in the year 2000 and in this year, believe it or not, 2020, bringing the numbers up to 20 million US dollars and becoming the sixth highest grossing film of 1988. In terms of home media releases, it was released in multiple formats by multiple companies, ranging from Pioneer Entertainment to Funimation Entertainment. On December 7, 2013, the movie premiered on Adult Swim's Saturday night anime programming, Toonami, which is still going today. And that is how I was introduced to this movie. I remember being really interested to watch it. But little did my 15-year-old self know that he was about to witness a crazy experience. When we come back, I will dive right into the movie story and then give you my final thoughts afterwards. I'll be right back after this 2-minute Alright, so a bit of a disclaimer before we continue on with this episode. I just got the brand new microphone, and it is called the Fine Studio Condenser USB microphone. And as you can probably tell, the audio quality is much better with this kind of microphone. So that is the new microphone I'm going to be using from now on. With that out of the way, let's continue on with this episode. Oh, by the way, spoilers are up ahead. You have been warned. On July 16, 1988, a singularity destroyed Tokyo. By 2019, Tokyo had been rebuilt. Now known as Neo-Tokyo, it is plagued by corruption, anti-government protests, terrorism, and gang violence, and it is on the verge of collapse. During a massive protest, the hot-headed Shotaro Kaneda leads his vigilante Bozozoku motorcycle gang against the rival Clown Gang. Kaneda's best friend, Tetsuo Shima, inadvertently crashes his motorcycle into Takashi, an Esper, a person with extrasensory perception, who escaped from a government laboratory with the aid of a resistance organization. The accident awakens psychic powers in Tetsuo, attracting the attention of a secret government project directed by Japan's Self-Defense Forces Colonel Shikishima. Assisted by another Esper, Mizoru, Shikishima recaptures Takashi, takes Tetsuo with him, and arrests Kaneda and his gang. While being interrogated by the police, Kaneda meets Kei, an activist belonging to the resistance movement, and tricks the authorities into releasing her and his gang. Shikishima and his head of research, Dr. Unishi, discovers that Tetsuo possesses powerful psychic abilities similar to Akira, the Esper responsible for Tokyo's destruction. Takashi's fellow Esper, Kyoko, forewarns Shikishima of Neo-Tokyo's impending destruction. However, Neo-Tokyo's parliament dismisses Shikishima's concerns, leading him to consider killing Tetsuo to prevent another cataclysm. Meanwhile, Tetsuo escapes from the hospital, steals Kaneda's motorcycle, and prepares to flee Neo-Tokyo with his girlfriend, Kaori. The clowns ambush them, but after a severe beating, they are rescued by Kaneda's gang. During the intervention, however, Tetsuo begins suffering intense headaches and hallucinations, and he is returned to the hospital. Kaneda then joins Kei's resistance cell after overhearing their plan to rescue Tetsuo and the other Espers. At the hospital, the Espers confront Tetsuo, and he aggressively fights back with his psychokinetic powers and escapes. These powers are beginning to make him egomaniacal and unstable. In other words, he's slowly turning into the madness. Kaneda, Kei, and the resistance group, meanwhile, infiltrate the hospital and are drawn into Shikishima and the other Espers' attempt to stop Tetsuo. He overpowers them all and flees the hospital after learning from Kyoko that he can gain help from Akira, who is currently in cryonic storage beneath the Olympic Stadium construction site. Kei and Kaneda escape military custody because of Kyoko, who is hoping to stop Tetsuo using Kei as a medium. Well, that's not nice, is it? Shikishima, meanwhile, stages a coup d'etat against the Neo-Tokyo government and directs all of its military forces to destroy Tetsuo. Speaking of whom, Tetsuo returns to his gang's former hideout, Harukiya Bar, I hope I said that one right, to obtain drugs to control his powers. He murders the bartender and destroys the bar in the process. When his former friends, Yamagata and Kai, arrive and confront him, he cold-bloodedly slaughters Yamagata in front of Kai. Kaneda is informed by Kai of what happened and vows to avenge his friend. Tetsuo, meanwhile, rampages through Neo-Tokyo, arriving at Akira's cryogenic storage door underneath the stadium. Kyoko has Kai fight Tetsuo, but he easily defeats her and exhumes Akira's remains. Using a laser rifle, Kaneda fights Tetsuo in a duel, and Shikishima fires an orbital cannon at him, but both fail to stop him. You know a movie is doing so good when there's no actual sound in space. Shikishima and Kari approach the stadium to find Tetsuo in pain. Shikishima offers to return Tetsuo to the hospital, heal his wounds, and help control his abilities, while Kari attempts to restrain Tetsuo. However, Kaneda arrives and duels with Tetsuo again. Unfortunately, unable to control his powers, Tetsuo mutates into a gigantic mass, consuming all matter, engulfing Kaneda and killing Kari. Ouch. As the mass grows uncontrollably, the Espers awaken Akira to stop it. After reuniting with his friends, Akira creates another singularity that draws Tetsuo and Kaneda into another dimension. Yes, you heard me, into another fucking dimension. The Espers, thankfully, teleport Shikishima to a safe distance as the singularity destroys Neo-Tokyo in a mirror of Tokyo's previous destruction, and they agree to rescue Kaneda, knowing that they, themselves, will not be able to return to this dimension as a result. In the singularity, Kaneda experiences Tetsuo's and the Esper's childhood, including Tetsuo's dependence on Kaneda during their childhood and how the children were trained and altered before Tokyo's destruction. The Espers return Kaneda to his world, informing him that Akira will take Tetsuo to safety and that Kei is developing psychic powers. Finally, the singularity disappears and the water floods the city. Unishi, during all of this, is crushed to death when the laboratory collapses on him. Kaneda discovers that Kei and Kai have survived and they drive off into the ruins while Shikishima watches the sunrise. Finally, Tetsuo introduces himself at another unspecified level of existence. Yeah, I'm gonna let you process that ending.
Contradiction, premonition, compromise, agitation, violation, mutilation, planet dies, darkest color, truth and the lies.
Okay, so here are my final thoughts. This movie scarred me the first time I watched it. I didn't know what I watched. But, seeing as I'm much more older and more mature, I can honestly say that it is called a classic for a reason. The story is well written, as expected. I love the fact that the movie doesn't show the title character until 15 minutes before the movie ends. I love the mystery behind what he did, who he was, and overall, I was intrigued from beginning to end. Speaking of that ending, Now it is clear that the manga's ending is quite different from the film's ending. With that said, there are some elements of the story that felt like it was dragging along at some points. Moving on to the characters, they are simple and well executed, and props to the voice actors and actresses for making these characters come to life. But there are some of them that don't fit that same criteria. Moving on to the animation, I am a sucker for old school hand-drawn animation these days, especially back in the 80s and 90s. With that said, I love the art style in this movie. It literally screams 80s manga. Or 80s anime. Now, the music took a while to sink into, but good lord, the moment the opening title drops and you hear nothing but Japanese drums, that is enough to let you know that this movie isn't fucking around. Overall, Akira is a great film. No, that's an understatement. It is an amazing film. Though, do not do what I did when I was 15 years old. Watch it if you're older. Now, if you're new here, I do not rank things on the scale of 0 to 5 or 0 to 10. I rate things ranging from 0 to 100. Like you're giving out a grade to a student. With some minor flaws, Akira in my books earns 96 out-of-control prosthetic arms of 100. A must-watch movie indeed. Get it in many formats as you want, either on Blu-ray or you can actually watch it on Funimation now. Just be prepared to spend some money. Now, you may recall that I said earlier that the movie was a failure in Japan. Let me rephrase that. Akira was a financial failure at the box office and almost bankrupted every animation studio that worked on it, mainly because the movies they produced had a bigger budget, including this film, which had the biggest of them all. Just like the stock market back in 1927 to 1929, look it up, that's a natural thing. When there is a boom, there is going to be a bust. And what followed afterwards was the anime crash of the late 80s. No longer are studios willingly spend time and money into an animated film, except maybe for Ghibli. It also didn't help that around this time, Japan was going through a financial crash. But thankfully, when the 1990s rolled around, shows such as Dragon Ball Z and Gundam were starting to make headway, but not as much as the early mid to late 80s. However, it was 1995's Ghost in the Shell, 1997's Princess Mononoke, and the shows Neon Genesis Evangelion and Sailor Moon that boosts the industry back to the levels of 1988. Next time, we'll be taking a look at an anime series that, like Akira, didn't do well ratings-wise, but in the West became more popular on an American TV program, Adult Swim. Alright, that is all I have for today. Thank you all so much for watching, or listening in this case, and I hope you all will join me as I go through the many genres of the anime industry en route to Godzilla Singular Point that comes out in April of 2021. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to get notified. This has been Demetrius signing off, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboy. Have a good day, everyone.